Hello students and learners, welcome to the new lecture, and in this lecture we are going to discuss about internal structure of the mammalian heart. Okay, so in the last lecture we have said that the size of the heart is approximately size of one's own wrist. You should not write the word wrist, okay, so you should write the word fist. Okay, what is meant by fist? If you fold your hand in this way, so how much is the size of your fist? That is the size of your heart. Okay, so next is the lab activity. So in this lab activity, we have to observe the internal structure of the mammalian heart. So the question here is, what is meant by mammalian heart? Any organism which have the mammary glands, they are known as mammalian. They are known as mammals. If you example the human beings, okay, human beings are the mammals. Next, goat, sheep, and so on. These all are the mammals. Why? Because these animals has the mammary glands. And if you take the example of a pigeon or crocodile, they are not mammals. Why? Because these organisms do not have any mammary glands. Okay, so the first our aim is to observe the internal structure of the mammalian heart. So as a result, we need some materials. Those materials are heart of the sheep or goat. Why? Because the sheep and heart is a mammal. So our heart and sheep and goat of the heart is almost similar. Next is the soda straws. So next, large blade or scalpel, water, scissors, and forceps. These all are the materials that are necessary. Okay, next the procedure. So how we have to observe, that is known as procedure or observation. So first of all, the mostly the heart is filled with blood. Okay, so we have to drain the blood. Okay, blood from the heart. As a result, what will be there, it will be easier to study. Okay, so as a result we have to wash the heart with water. So after washing with water, the blood, the heart will be drained completely. Okay, or the blood will be drained from the heart. Next is we have to insert soda straws into stumps of the blood vessel. Stump is nothing but the blood vessel. Okay, a blood vessel or a cut blood vessel. So this is known as stump. We have to insert the straws, soda straws, so that to understand where this blood vessel is entering into which chamber. So to identify the entry of this blood vessel into the chamber or which chamber, we have to insert the straws. Next is the observe the arrangement of the coronary vessels on the walls of the heart. Coronary vessels are nothing but the blood vessels that is present on the walls of the heart. Okay, that is known as coronary vessels. In this diagram you can see the coronary vessel. So in this diagram you can see a blood vessel or the blood vessels which are present on the walls of the heart, that is known as coronary vessels. The term coronary, okay, the coronary refers to the heart. Okay, so the vessels which are present on the heart are known as coronary vessels. Okay, so next is, there are few questions that you have to answer based upon your observation. The first question is, how many layers are covering the heart? There are two layers covering the heart. They are known as pericardial membranes. Next is, what is shape of the heart? The shape of the heart is pear shaped and it is roughly triangular in outline, and wider at the anterior and narrower at the posterior. That we will discuss, everything we will discuss after a moment. Okay, next, how many larger blood vessels are larger blood vessel stumps are there? There are 5 larger blood vessels that are attached to the heart. And which end of the heart is broader and which end is narrower? So the anterior part means in this way. Okay, this is the anterior and this is the posterior. Okay, so the anterior part of the heart is wider and posterior part is narrower. Okay, and here the heart is covered by the two layers that is known as pericardium. Or what is meant by pericardium? So let us consider this is the heart. Okay, so the heart is covered by the two membranes. These two membranes are known as pericardial membranes. So let us zoom into it. Okay, so these are the membranes, pericardial membranes, and this is known as heart. Okay, so these pericardial membranes are filled with fluid. Okay, filled with fluid, and this fluid along with this pericardial membranes, they are going to help in the protecting the heart. For example, while you are playing cricket or volleyball, if the ball hits heavily on the chest, okay, what will happen? There will be generation of some amount of shock. So these membranes are going to protect your heart. Okay, protect your heart from the shocks. Okay, external shocks from the environment. And the heart is externally divided by the grooves. Okay, grooves means the depression that you can see on the heart surface, that is known as groove. Here you can see the grooves that are present. So these grooves are the indications that there are chambers. How many chambers? 4 chambers are there. So there are 4 chambers. Out of the 4 chambers, 2 are auricles. Okay, and two are ventricles. So what is meant by ventricles and auricles? These are the top chambers, the two chambers on the upside. Okay, upside or anterior side is known as auricles. So here it will be the one auricle and here will be the second auricle. So two auricles are over, and the third is the ventricle. So this is the third chamber, that is the ventricle, and the fourth chamber is the another ventricle. So here you can see there are four chambers that is present in the heart. Okay, just now we have discussed coronary vessels are the blood vessels that supplies blood to the walls of the heart. Even the heart is also a living tissue, made up of living tissue. They need nutrients and gases. Hence, these vessels are going to supply the blood with nutrients and gases to the tissue on the heart. Okay, this is the main function of the coronary vessels. So next, the walls of the auricles are thicker than the walls of the ventricles. So what is meant by walls? Walls is nothing but above these chambers you can see a wall. Okay, so if you compare the thickness of the walls of the auricles and thickness of the walls of the ventricles, what you can notice, the walls of the auricles are thinner and walls of the ventricles are thicker. Okay, so this is only the major difference that you can see. So next is the size of the left atrium and left ventricle are smaller than the right atrium and right ventricle. So observe this. Okay, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Four chambers are there. So if you observe this one and third chamber, first and third chamber, so they are larger. Okay, they are larger when compared to the second and fourth. Okay, this is second chamber and fourth chamber. They are known as left. They are known as left chambers. Okay, so left chambers, or you can call it as a left atrium and also left ventricle. So the left atrium and left ventricles are smaller when compared to the right atrium and right ventricle. Clearly you can observe here the chamber is larger. This chamber is larger when compared to these two chambers. Okay, so next, the blood vessels are tube-like structures. So what is meant by blood vessel? Whether it may be coronary vessel or artery or vein, these all are known as blood vessels. Here you can see the artery. This is the capillary. This is the vein. These all are the blood vessels. So this is the artery. Let us consider this is coming from the heart. Okay. So the size of the wall size of this artery is thicker. Okay. You can see this is let us consider this is the artery. Okay. So the size of the wall is thicker. Okay, why the size of the wall is thicker in the artery? Why? Because there is huge amount of the pressure inside the blood vessel, so which is coming from the heart. As a result, to withstand this pressure that is coming from the heart, so the walls are thicker so that they will not burst and they will supply the proper blood to all body parts. Okay, so hence these arteries are going to supply blood from the heart to the different parts of the body, and these capillaries are originating from the artery. So the fine division of the artery will be formed into blood capillaries. From here the nutrients, next water or carbon dioxide or gas, everything what it may be, they are going to get exchanged. It means they will be released. These important nutrients will be released into the tissue. Okay, so the tissue is going to perform cellular respiration. They will produce carbon dioxide, waste materials, and everything. So these waste materials will be again absorbed into the blood capillaries. From the here the blood capillaries are going to join to form a tube that is known as vein. This vein is again going towards the heart. Okay, so this is known as blood circulation that is occurring in the tubes or blood vessels. Okay, and here you have to discuss a little bit more about the arteries. Arteries is one of the blood vessel, so it is originating from the heart. Let us consider, so this is the blood vessel, so this is the artery, and so on. There are many arteries that is originating from the main heart. Okay, and they are going to supply the oxygenated blood. Why oxygenated blood? Why? Because so the lungs, from the lungs, okay, deoxygenated blood is converted into oxygenated, and they will be sent to this blood to this chamber. The chamber is known as right atrium. Okay, so this is not the right atrium, this is a left atrium. So from the left atrium, so the blood will be pumped to the left ventricle, from the left ventricle to the all body parts. Okay, so hence we can say that these arteries are going to carry the oxygenated blood and they are going to supply to the all body parts. So just now we have discussed the arteries have the thicker blood vessels. It means the size of the, it means the thickness of the blood vessel of the artery is much larger, and here you can see this is much larger, and this is artery, and this is known as vein. Okay, so if you compare the size is much larger and size is thinner. Okay, so or you can call it a thicker blood vessel in the artery and thinner blood vessel in the veins. Next is the pulmonary artery. So what is meant by pulmonary artery? Just now we have seen the coronary artery. Coronary word refers to the heart. Here the pulmonary refers to the lungs. Okay, pulmonary means lungs. So artery means it is a blood vessel that will supply. So here this blood vessel is going to supply blood, deoxygenated blood to the lungs. Here you can see this is the pulmonary pulmonary artery. So this pulmonary artery is going to supply deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle to the lungs. So this blood vessel is going to, or you can call it as a pulmonary artery, is going to supply to the left lung. Okay, to the left lung, and here another branch of it is going to supply deoxygenated blood to the right lung. Okay, so this is the main difference that you can see. So next is systemic aorta. Systemic aorta is a major blood vessel that is originating from the left ventricle. So this is known as left ventricle. So this left ventricle has oxygenated blood and is going to supply oxygenated blood through this major blood vessel that is known as systemic aorta. Again, the systemic aorta will divide into numerous branches. They are known as arteries, and these arteries will supply blood to the different body parts. Okay, so by this way they are going to supply to the different body parts. And next, the blood capillaries. These are the smallest blood vessels with one cell thickness and helps in the exchanging of the nutrients. In this diagram you can see these are the blood capillaries. So these blood capillaries are going to help in the exchanging of the nutrients, gases and so on, and waste materials also. Okay, and the next is the veins. Just now we have discussed the veins is the blood vessel. They are going to collect the deoxygenated blood from the different body parts. Okay, after collecting the deoxygenated blood from the different body parts, they will bring to the heart, bring towards the heart. So here you can see the blood vessel. So this is one, this is the veins. Okay, this is known as a precaval vein, or you can call it as a superior vena cava. Superior means it is a little bit above the heart, that is known as precaval vein. So it is going to bring the blood from head. Okay, bring the blood from the head, and the blood will be deoxygenated and it will be released into the right atrium. Here you can see this precaval vein or superior vena cava is going to release all the deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. And next is another vein that is known as inferior vena cava. This inferior vena cava is also known as postcaval vein. Postcaval vein, it is going to bring deoxygenated blood from the posterior part of the body. Posterior part of the body like legs, hands, abdomen, stomach and so on. So this deoxygenated blood will be brought and released into the right atrium. Okay, so it means we can understand that this chamber, right atrium, is going to receive deoxygenated blood from the mainly superior and inferior vena cava, or you can call it as a precaval vein and also postcaval vein. Okay, it's fine. So from here the deoxygenated blood will be pumped to the another chamber that is known as, what is this chamber? This chamber is known as right ventricle. So the right ventricle containing the deoxygenated blood will be pumped to the lungs. Through which one? Through the artery. Okay, pulmonary artery. So the pulmonary artery is divided into two branches. One branch is going towards the left lung, another branch is going towards the right lung. Okay, right lung. So as a result, this deoxygenated blood in the lungs will be converted. Deoxygenated blood will be converted to the oxygenated blood, and this oxygenated blood will be again received into the which chamber? That chamber is known as the left atrium. So the left atrium is going to accept blood from the lungs, both lungs are left and right lung. So here you can see from the right lung and from the left lung, this chamber is going to receive the blood through which blood vessel? That is known as pulmonary veins. The pulmonary veins. The pulmonary veins are the blood vessels that will bring oxygenated blood from the lungs to this chamber. Okay, and here you can see the diagram. So here you can see this is the pulmonary artery. The blue color blood vessel is the pulmonary artery. It is going to supply deoxygenated blood to the each lung, okay, to the each lung, and here will be the deoxygenated blood will be converted to the oxygenated blood, and this oxygenated blood will be transferred or pumped to the this chamber. This chamber is known as right atrium. Okay, not right, it's the left atrium. This chamber is known as left atrium. The left atrium is going to receive oxygenated blood from the right lung and also left lung, and it is going to store over here. So this oxygenated blood again it will be pumped to the next chamber. That chamber is known as left ventricle. Okay, so next here is we have discussed the precaval vein, postcaval vein, and so on. So next, the both superior and inferior vena cava opens into the right atrium, and here you can see between these two chambers there is a septum. Septum is nothing but a muscular separation, a muscular partition. Partition means a division, a muscular partition that separates the two atria and also two ventricles with each other. Okay, and here you can see in these septa there is a wall. So this is a wall and this is a wall. So what are that walls? They are known as auriculoventricular septum. So let us discuss with the help of simple diagram. So this is the chambers of the heart. Okay, so this is the right atrium, right ventricle. This is the left atrium, left ventricle. So this is the precaval vein. Okay, this is the postcaval vein. The precaval vein and postcaval vein is going to pump deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. So this is the muscular. Okay, this is septum. This is the septum that is separating the chambers. Okay, so what is that septum? Auriculoventricular septum. Auriculoventricular septum means the septum or muscular partition that is dividing the auricles and ventricles. So in the septum you can see a wall. So this is a wall and this is also a wall. So these walls are going to allow the flow of blood from the right atrium to the right ventricle only in one direction. Okay, so these walls will be in this way. Okay, walls will be in this way. This is the septum. Walls will be in this way. So right atrium, from the right atrium to the right ventricle only will be done. Okay, so the opposite direction movement will be prevented. Why? Because these are only one way walled. One way valve means only allows the blood from the right atrium to the right ventricle, but not in opposite direction. Okay, so this is about septum. Okay, auriculoventricular septum. So between the auricles and ventricles. So these walls are two types, that is tricuspid wall and bicuspid wall. So here you can see the tricuspid, the wall which is present, you can see here over there is a tricuspid wall. This is the bicuspid wall. So how the tricuspid wall and bicuspid wall looks like? Here you can see this is the tricuspid wall. 1, 2, and 3. They are looking like a 3 flaps. Hence we can call it as a tricuspid wall that is present between right atrium and right ventricle. There is a tricuspid wall. Okay, so this is known as tricuspid wall. Okay, fine. It has received the deoxygenated blood from the right atrium to the right ventricle through tricuspid wall. So now what will happen? This will be pumped from the right ventricle. The blood will be pumped to this pulmonary arteries to each lung. And also here also you can see from at the starting, here you can see the pulmonary wall. So when there is a starting of the pulmonary artery, you can see the pulmonary wall. So this pulmonary wall is going to regulate the flow of blood from the right ventricle, to the pulmonary, pulmonary artery. Okay, so this is the thing. Here also there is a valve. That valve is known as pulmonary valve. Okay, that is known as pulmonary valve. It is going to allow only to enter from right ventricle to the pulmonary artery. Okay, but not in opposite direction. Okay, so next is the tricuspid valve is over. Next is the bicuspid valve. So it is a valve present between the left auricle or left auriculoventricular septum. So in here there is a septum. In the septum you can see the two valves, okay, two flap-like structure. Hence we can call it as a bicuspid. Bi means two, tri means three. So this is known as bicuspid valve. It is a valve present between the left auricle and also left ventricle. Okay. Just now we have discussed there is a valve that is between the right ventricle to the pulmonary artery. Okay, this valve which is present over here is known as pulmonary valve. Okay, here you can see the pulmonary valve. Here also the tricuspid. It means it has a three flaps like structure. It is a pulmonary valve. Okay, and the next is the systemic valve. It is present in the region of the systemic aorta. So here will be the systemic valve. And if you see here in this diagram, there will be a systemic valve. Here will be the systemic valve. We will use with another diagram, another color. So this is known as systemic valve. Okay. So the systemic valve is going to help in the flow of blood from the left ventricle to the systemic aorta. So from the left ventricle to systemic aorta, this valve is going to allow. So hence here also you can see, that the left ventricle to the systemic aorta. So there is a valve. That valve is known as pulmonary valve. That is known as systemic valve. This valve is also only one way. That is, it is going to allow only from the left ventricle to the systemic aorta. Okay, but not in opposite direction. Okay. So next that tricuspid bicuspid valve is over. So pulmonary valve over, systemic valve is over. Next is the right atrium. So it has the opening of the superior and inferior vena cava that brings deoxygenated blood from the body parts. Okay. So here you can see this is the chamber. This is the chamber that is helping. Wait a minute. So this is a chamber that is going to help in the bringing of this blood. Okay, it is the chamber that brings from the all body parts deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated will be brought into the right atrium. So from the right atrium, it will be pumped to the right ventricle through the tricuspid valve. Okay, from the tricuspid valve, the blood will be entered into the right ventricle. From the right ventricle into the lungs by a chamber, by a tube or the blood vessel known as pulmonary artery. So at the starting of the pulmonary artery, you will see another valve. That valve is known as pulmonary valve. Okay. So next, when the lungs receives this deoxygenated blood, the blood will be converted into oxygenated blood, and this oxygenated blood will be transferred to a chamber. That chamber is known as left. That is known as left atrium. So this left atrium receives oxygenated blood from the pulmonary veins. Okay, pulmonary veins, and these pulmonary veins brought the blood will be dumped into the left atrium. From the left atrium, the blood will move into the left ventricle, and here the left ventricle is going to pump blood into the systemic aorta through a valve. That valve is known as systemic valves. Okay, and next is the questions based upon the topic. So is the thickness of the walls of the heart uniform throughout? No, the thickness of the walls of the heart is not uniform throughout. So example, atria are thin walled and ventricles are thicker walled. So why the reason? The reason is the atria has the less amount of pressure. It means they are going to exert less amount of pressure, while the ventricles has to exert more amount of the pressure. As a result, the wall should be stronger. If the walls of the ventricles are stronger, they can exert more amount of the pressure, so that the blood will move from the blood vessel. Okay. So next is, how many chambers are there in the heart? There are 4 chambers. Okay, right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle. Okay. So are all chambers are the same size? No, all chambers of the heart do not have the same size. So left side portions like left atrium and left ventricles are smaller when compared to the right atrium and right ventricles. Okay, and what are other differences could you observe between the chambers? So that is nothing but the left auricles and left ventricles are smaller than the right auricle and right ventricle. So next question is, are all chambers connected to each other? No, all chambers are not connected. So auricles are connected to the ventricles only by the walls. What are those walls? Tricuspid valve, bicuspid valve, and so on. So with the help of tricuspid valve and bicuspid valve, these auricles are connected to the ventricles. Okay, bicuspid valve is also known as mitral valve. So next question is, how are they connected to each other? How are they separated? Auricles are connected to the ventricles by walls which are present in auriculoventricular septum. So auriculoventricular septum means it is a partition that divides auricles and ventricles. It means the partition which is present between the auricles and also ventricles. Okay. How many blood vessels are attached to the heart? There are 5 blood vessels. They are they are aorta, or you can call it a systemic aorta, pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein, superior vena cava, and also inferior vena cava. Okay. So next is, are all blood vessels are rigid? How many of them are rigid? So actually, all blood vessels are not rigid. All blood vessels are not rigid. Only the arteries are rigid. For example, if you take the aorta and also pulmonary artery, they are rigid and a little bit stronger, so that to withstand at higher pressure that is coming from the heart. Okay. So do you think the stiffness or rigidity of the blood vessels is something to do with circulation? Yes, there is something to do with circulation. That is the stiffness. Stiffness of the blood vessels plays important role in the withstanding of the blood pressure which is coming from the heart. Okay, heart pumps the blood at higher pressure. So to withstand it at this higher pressure, the walls of the arteries should be stronger and they have to be stiff. So as a result, the blood will be pumped through them easily, and they can, as a result, it will be preventing the bursting of the blood vessel. Okay. And I hope this lecture is helpful to you, and if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel so that you will get notifications when the class is about to start. And like the video, share, and also comment. So you can ask your questions or doubt in the comment section so that we can reply to your comments. Okay, whether it may be doubt or comment or suggestion. And next lecture we are going to discuss about the blood vessels and circulation. Okay, and we will see you in the next lecture.